I had been assigned to the outpost on Kalira 9, a fringe planet on the edge of human-controlled space. Its harsh, red deserts stretched endlessly beneath a blood-orange sky, dotted with jagged mountains that pierced the horizon like broken teeth. The local colonists whispered of strange sightings, of predators that moved like shadows, and of a being known simply as Kalara, an alien woman whose reputation spread faster than rumor. Everyone feared her. When I first encountered her, I understood why. She emerged from the jagged canyon with fluid grace, taller than any human and encased in armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Her eyes, pale silver with flecks of violet, scanned the barren landscape with cold precision. Even the desert winds seemed to bend away from her, as if recognizing her authority. "Everyone fears me," she said the moment our eyes met, her voice carrying a resonance that made the air vibrate. "Why don't you, human?" Her words were not a challenge. They were an observation, and it unnerved me more than the edge of her blade ever could. I had been trained for encounters with alien life, taught protocols and defense strategies, yet none of that prepared me for the quiet power of Kalara. I took a measured step forward, my rifle lowered but at the ready. "Fear is not always the right response," I said. "Sometimes understanding is more useful." A slow, almost imperceptible smirk appeared on her lips. "Understanding," she echoed. "Few humans have that capacity. Most run. Most submit. Yet you stand. Why?" "I've faced worse than fear," I replied. "I've faced death on a scale you can't imagine. And I've learned to see threats for what they are, not for the intimidation they carry." Kalara tilted her head, studying me. For a moment, the wind carried no sound but the distant howl of desert storms, and I realized we were locked in a silent test of comprehension and intent. Over the following weeks, I learned more about Kalara than any human record had captured. She was not just feared, she was revered and reviled, a warrior, strategist, and protector of a long-lost civilization that humans had stumbled upon by accident. The colonists had misinterpreted her actions, framing them as cruel or merciless, but in reality, her interventions were precise, necessary, and calculated to maintain balance. When I approached her cautiously in the canyon again, she did not retreat. Instead, she allowed me to observe as she defended a small village from rogue marauders, her movements precise, deadly, yet purposeful. Each strike incapacitated rather than killed when possible. Each decision minimized collateral damage. The colonists had feared her, but I saw discipline, logic, and a strange form of compassion. One evening, as the twin moons of Kalira 9 rose over the horizon, Kalara finally spoke more freely. "Do you understand what it means to be feared?" she asked, her eyes reflecting the pale moons. "I think I do," I replied. "Fear is a tool. It can protect, control, or isolate. But wielded incorrectly, it destroys more than it preserves." Her gaze lingered on me, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability behind the veneer of power. Few humans comprehend this. Most are blinded by instinct, flight, fight, survival. You observe. You assess. You would choose. "I choose to survive," I said, "but not at the expense of principles." A silence followed, broken only by the whisper of the desert wind. In that quiet, I realized that our interactions were no longer merely about observation. They were lessons. Lessons in control, morality, and perception. Weeks became months. I traveled with her across Kalira 9, witnessing landscapes ravaged by ancient tectonics, ruins of civilizations older than human history, and ecosystems that defied classification. Through each encounter, be it with predatory creatures, hostile factions, or natural hazards, Kalara demonstrated a philosophy I struggled to articulate. She feared nothing, not because she was invincible, but because she understood consequence, pattern, and timing better than anyone I had known. Her presence inspired both terror and trust. And through our interactions, I found myself learning not just about her, but about my own capabilities and the limits of human perception. Then came the ambush. A band of rogue mercenaries, armed with stolen technology, attacked while we traversed a canyon pass. Their intent was clear: eliminate the alien threat to establish dominance over the outpost. Kalara moved with a precision that seemed almost prescient, intercepting attacks before they could reach us. Yet this time, a strike grazed her shoulder. I reacted instinctively, covering her flank and engaging the attackers with everything I had. But she was not incapacitated. She had already anticipated my moves, guiding me with subtle gestures and shifts in positioning. Together, human and alien, we created a rhythm, a choreography of survival that neither could achieve alone. After the battle, she looked at me, eyes glinting with an emotion I could not name. "You did not fear," she said simply, "even when death was near. That is rare." "I trust you," I replied, "and I trust myself." In the quiet aftermath, as the desert sun rose over the jagged peaks, Kalara spoke of her past. Her civilization had faced annihilation from forces even more ruthless than humans. She had been trained to survive, to lead, to instill fear when necessary. Fear had been her armor, her shield, her tool, but it had also been a prison. "You are the first human I have encountered who does not fear me," she said. "Not because you are reckless, but because you understand." "And that makes me different?" I asked. "It makes you capable," she replied. "Capable of walking alongside me rather than beneath my shadow." Our bond deepened through shared experiences. She taught me not just combat or survival, but perception, decision-making, and restraint. I taught her the nuances of human psychology, emotion, and strategy. Slowly, our relationship evolved from mutual observation to partnership, respect, and even trust. The colonists continued to whisper, fear and admiration intertwined, but we no longer needed their validation. In the vast deserts of Kalara 9, we found our own understanding of alliance, balance, and coexistence. Years later, I would recount the story to Earth authorities, not as a tale of conquest or subjugation, but of learning and adaptation. Fear is not always weakness, and understanding is not always surrender. Kalara had shown me that strength lies not in intimidation alone, but in clarity, foresight, and the courage to act without malice. Standing together on a ridge overlooking the planet's endless red sands, she finally allowed herself a faint smile. "You are unlike the others," she said. "I am human," I replied, "and yet, I am not afraid." She nodded, her eyes reflecting both moons above. "Then you are ready," she said. "Not because you wield power, but because you understand it. That is rarer than courage. That is survival." In the end, the lesson was simple, yet profound. Fear is a tool, and understanding is power. Kalara's reputation as a terror was well-earned, but only to those who never looked beyond the surface. Those who observe, learn, and choose. The human who stood without fear can walk alongside legends, shape the outcome of worlds, and endure where others falter. Because sometimes, the absence of fear is not recklessness. It is insight, clarity, and the rare courage to see truth in its rawest form. And in that insight, Kalara and I found not just survival, but partnership, trust, and the unspoken understanding that some connections transcend species, planet, and fear itself.